So this article was shared by Christina. Christina, thank you for sharing this. And some of you guys probably already know this about me because I've talked about it openly, because why shouldn't I? The documentation is out there. I gave Barack Obama the benefit of the doubt until the very end. I wanted to believe so bad that the activist from Chicago was still in there. I wanted to believe so bad that he was a lefty who just was kind of shackled, while he was in office. And that just wasn't the case at all. And you can find old videos of me giving Obama the benefit of the doubt. If you look real closely, you can see the egg on my face, even back then. Obama, by his own admission, is a moderate Republican. Those are his words. When he had a Democrat supermajority, he gave us Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. And no, he didn't flake on the public option because of pressure from other Democrats. Sure, there were a lot of Democrats not for the public option, but he had a supermajority, and the majority of the public wanted a public option. And the people who he turned on were not the people who didn't want a public option. They were the people who did, i.e. Dennis Kucinich. That's who Obama turned on. Obama twisted Dennis Kucinich's arm into supporting the ACA. And then because Dennis Kucinich made a big deal about the public option not being there, Obama redistricted him. That's what happened. So that's who Obama went against, not the people who didn't want a public option, the people who did. Because Obama did not want a public option, because Big Pharma did not want a public option. That's just what happened. And since he's been out of office, Obama has collected plenty of checks from Wall Street, where he gives speeches where he wags his fingers at voters and tells the left to, quote, settle down. And still, even in the debates, you get questions about, there was a question in the last debate that I watched in Australia. There was a question about his legacy. It was about healthcare, of course, and it was about his legacy, as if that's a concern. 30 million people don't have healthcare. Every year, thousands and thousands and thousands of people die because of lack of healthcare services, because they don't have access to healthcare in the richest country in the world. And I'm supposed to care not about the fact that that's happening. I'm supposed to care about Obama's legacy. Who cares that we have this policy that sucks, that, we got the Affordable Care Act. It's Mitt Romney's healthcare plan. A lot of people still can't afford it. 30 million people are still left out. Who cares about that? What about Obama's legacy? Who cares about Obama's legacy? I sure as hell don't. I don't care about Obama's legacy because he has proven time and time again he's not the person I voted for. Or who I thought I was voting for, rather. And when he weighs in on politics here in California, he weighed in on the midterms to endorse Dianne Feinstein. That was what he did here in California. He didn't say anything about the rent control bill that we had. He didn't say anything about the public and banking initiative in Los Angeles. He didn't say anything about the progressives that were trying to break in. He endorsed Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein, who is basically a Republican, who is full-throatedly against single-payer health care and was against it from day one here in California, and did her part to make sure it was stabbed in the back and shelved here in California. And here's what Obama has to say about 2020. Obama said he would speak up to stop a Bernie Sanders nomination. Bernie's not a Democrat, one close advisor to the former president told Politico. Former President Barack Obama, who has so far taken a neutral position publicly on the 2020 Democratic presidential primary, privately indicated he would speak up to stop Bernie Sanders from becoming the party's nominee should the Vermont senator make significant gains, Politico reported on Tuesday. Politico's Ryan Liza, who spoke to several of Obama's advisors, wrote that the former president sees his role in the Democratic primary process as providing guardrails to make sure it doesn't get too ugly and to unite the party when the nominee is clear. But there's one exception, and that's Bernie Sanders. Here's allegedly what Obama said privately. Back when Sanders seemed more of a threat than he does now, Obama would speak up to stop him. So according to this article goes on to say Sanders, who lost the Democratic primary race to Hillary Clinton, in 2016, has remained among the frontrunners since announcing his second presidential bid in February. Asked whether Obama would really step in to prevent a Sanders nomination, one advisor told Liza that he can't really confirm that. So according to this advisor, he hasn't said that directly to me. The only reason I'm hesitating at all is because, yeah, if Bernie were running away with it, I think maybe we would all have to say something. But I don't think that's likely. It's not happening. Another close Obama friend reportedly told Liza that Bernie's not a Democrat. Bernie's not a Democrat until it's convenient for them. Until they want his email list, until they want him to do community outreach, until they want him to go on a unity tour. Bernie's not a Democrat until all those. When those things happen, then Bernie's a Democrat. But until those, Bernie, no, he's not a Democrat. So that's what Obama has to say about 2020. Why does he want to stop Bernie Sanders? Well, he needs to make sure it doesn't get too ugly. Which, he's been telling the left to settle down. You got to settle down about the upcoming climate catastrophe. Settle down. The climate's collapsing. Just settle down. Settle down. People are dying in the streets without health care. Settle down. Settle down. People have to work 2 and 3 jobs in the richest country in the world because they're not paid living wages. Because there are no protections for workers in this country. Settle down. Settle down. Unions are being decimated. Settle down. Settle down. You have to go into debt for the rest of your life to get a higher education in the richest country in the world. Settle down. Settle down. No big deal. Go out and have a beer. Go out and have a beer and just kind of talk it out and forget about it. Forget about all that debt. Forget about the fact that you're one paycheck away from going under. Forget about the fact that the climate's collapsing. Forget about the fact that we're in endless war for no reason except for oil. Just settle down. Just settle down. Settle down. For many of us, it's the first time in our lives where there's actually a viable option for president who reflects some of the principles that we care about. It's the first time in my lifetime. It's never happened before. And when someone like Bernie Sanders makes it this far, it's because the establishment screwed up somewhere. They try to make sure something like that can't happen. When it happens anyway, it's because they screwed up somewhere. It's because in 2016, when they ran the least popular candidate maybe ever in the history of the Democratic Party, they bit off a little more than they can chew. And a progressive saw a lane and he took it. But settle down. Settle down. The whole world is watching. And many of them are hoping adamantly that Bernie Sanders is the nominee because they know what's at stake. And they know that in the upcoming climate catastrophe, the United States needs to be a leader. And they know that incrementalism ain't going to solve it. And they know that Donald Trump and the right sure as hell ain't going to solve it. So they know there's one option. But settle down. Settle down. And, if Barack Obama needs to, he'll step in. He'll step in and stop Bernie Sanders. Just like he stepped in Chicago and insisted that his facility be built, even though it screwed over the community and community organizers were against it. Just like he stepped in here in California to endorse Dianne Feinstein. Dianne Feinstein, the person who told a bunch of kids to shut up and go away when they told her they wanted a planet to live on. Who said that if single payer means the government takes over healthcare. She's not there yet, quote unquote. Find that video. That's who Barack Obama endorsed. And now, who's he endorsing now? Well, gee, just anyone except Bernie. That's where Obama's at. Anyone but Bernie. Barack Obama. Because, Bernie might disrupt his legacy. Who cares about the millions of people that die without health care? Obama got the Affordable Care Act. And that's part of his legacy. Do we really want to disrupt that legacy? And that's important, right? What kind of democratic society puts the ego of a former president above the fact that people are dying in the streets every day without health care? What kind of bootlicking sycophant nightmare is that? That's our corporate media. That's what that is. Unreal. All right, so now I'm awake. Now I am awake. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your